Hi, welcome to Feasting on Fanfare, where I pull recipes from any nerdy source I can. Some years ago, I found a manga, a very cute manga called Addicted to Curry. And I had no experience before this making curries, but one of the things I liked about this manga was every featured curry recipe, they gave you the recipe. If you can find it, I recommend checking it out. Anyway, one of the early recipes, a simple chicken curry, was one of the ones that I liked most out of many ones that I tried. Oh, the mushroom curry, the keema, those were all great, but this is a simple, takes a while, but a simple curry that is filling and satisfying and just gives you a nice warm belly full of happiness. I also found that with just a few alterations, this chicken curry becomes a vegetarian curry, and I have enough friends of mine who are vegetarian where it has been very helpful. Now, I'm bringing this recipe to you because I have brought it to so many of my in-person friends so many times. It's a time investment, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, one pot can feed a person through the whole week. It also freezes really well, and it is supremely customizable to your own interests. You want it spicier? You make it spicy. You want it to have less dairy? You can do that. You want it to have it completely different ingredients? Just a few changes, and you have a completely different flavor profile. So I today am going to be giving you the basic recipe, but I'm going to encourage you, plead with you even, to customize it to your own tastes. Use more of this, use less of that. Try, mix, match, and alter just whatever you want. So, if you're ready, then I'm ready, so let's get this started, okay?
Since the recipe I shamelessly stole was a chicken curry recipe, let's start there. Bear in mind, I both scaled up the recipe and also meddled with it to suit my own tastes, and you are more than welcome to do the same. Now for ingredient prep. We're starting with our onions. I use 4 to 6 small or medium onions. When larger onions are what I have on hand, I use 2 or 3 of those, and any variety will work just fine. In either case, I give them a rough chop, and then I chop them up super fine in the food processor. You can certainly mince these by hand if you like, or if you don't have a food processor, but I like to get them a little bit soupy. The curry ends up having a beautiful fine texture. Also, the original recipe I ganked this from did say to use a food processor, and I'm not going to argue with that. I also like to have potatoes in my curry. They absorb flavors very well, they meld well with pretty much any kind of curry you're making, and they're super easy and bulk up the curry. Now often I won't even peel them, I'll just make sure they're scrubbed nice and clean, and I'll chop them into small pieces, not quite bite size, I like them smaller. I just like the finished product better when I do that. Anyway, we will put these aside for parboiling later, but we'll get to that. Meanwhile, as this is a chicken curry, it'd be weird if we didn't have chicken in it. I like to use deboned, skinless thighs. You can do this yourself, or you may be able to buy them like that at your store. I like to do it myself when I have the time so that I can use the bones for stock. Anyway, thighs have a wonderful texture when they're fully cooked in this method. They're perfect for long, slow, wet cooking methods. However, I've done this with chicken breasts too, and it's not the same, but it's still not bad. You use whatever you want. Now that we've got that out of the way, we'll start cooking the onions. This is going to take a while, so make sure you leave plenty of time. Scoop out your onions into a big pot with about half a cup of vegetable oil and a large pinch of salt. We're going to cook these on medium-low to low for about an hour, stirring every so often. The goal here is to get a rich brown color as the onions reduce and caramelize without letting them burn. At one point in the comic, they do say that the curry tastes best if you get the onions nearly black. While I'm sure that is true, I don't take it quite that far. While the onions are cooking, we're just going to go ahead and parboil those potatoes like I mentioned. Just put them in a pot with cold salted water and put them on the heat for about 20 to 25 minutes. They don't need to be fully cooked, we just want to soften them up so they don't have to take 2 hours in the curry later. We will also want to take this time to prep our spices. It's perfectly fine to use a pre-made curry powder, and I often do, but I also like to grind up some of my own spices to put in as well. I have some delicate eaters coming in, so I don't want to make it too spicy this time. Here I'm using coriander, cumin, and fennel seed in a spice grinder. A coffee grinder that's just used for spices is perfect for this, and I whip them up into a nice powder. On my own, I also usually throw in a little bit of red chili flake too. It's good time also to mince up some garlic and prepare some ginger. I always keep frozen ginger on hand so that I can grate it whenever I need it. Now that that's ready, let's check on our onions. You may be asking yourself, I don't know, she really wants me to cook this for an hour? And I can't really say I blame you for asking that, but it's a wonderful low-risk way of turning your onions from this pale color to this beautiful deeper color. And we probably could go even further, but trust me, this here is still going to be really tasty. We're going to start with adding a little bit of butter for extra richness. This is purely optional, but it's an option I like to take. I'm also adding in some minced garlic, and yes, I'm using jar garlic. Look, I had a long day. But if you're using jar garlic, you do want to use more of it. I'm using about 2 to 3 tablespoons, but if you mince it fresh, you can get away with 1. This is also a good time to add the ginger, which by this point is thawed quite nicely. We're giving that 5 minutes on low heat with a little bit of stirring before we add our spices, including both the curry powder and the spices that we ground ourselves. That takes another 5 minutes before we move on to the next step. And oh man, I wish you could smell this. It's only got to get better too. We're adding 1 small can of tomato sauce, not marinara sauce. I have made that mistake before. It still, weirdly enough, came out okay, but I wouldn't recommend it as a habit. Anyway, we're also adding a splash of soy sauce, a squirt of ketchup, just for a hint of sweetness, and some yogurt, plain, regular yogurt. I like my curry nice and creamy, so I use about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of plain yogurt. With that, we have a base recipe for our curry. It's all easy from here. We'll go ahead and add our parboiled potatoes, as well as some frozen peas, just for fun. You don't have to thaw them either. They'll cook just fine from freezer to pot. Fresh peas, though, would be totally awesome. And of course, we're going to add our chicken. Just a little bit of water to make sure all of our chunks are nice and submerged, and that's all you need to put in the pot. We just continue simmering on low for another hour, stirring every so often. Every 15 to 20 minutes should be just fine. Towards the end of cooking, you're probably going to see some fat separation, and that's totally okay. Just give it a good stir and keep on trucking. Hey, maybe you're not into chicken. Maybe you're a vegetarian, or you keep kosher and you can't have chicken with dairy. Or maybe you just don't feel like chicken today. Not a problem. Remember how we said we finished our base not too long ago? Let's just double back to that. We've got our onions, our spices, our flavorings, tomato sauce, and yogurt, right? So we're just going to add vegetables instead of chicken. Now we're still going to go with our potatoes, and we're still going to go with our peas because they're really good in curry. But we're also going to be using some shredded carrot, as well as some cauliflower that is diced or crumbled, or however you get your cauliflower, in nice small pieces. The smaller they are, of course, the faster they'll cook. Once again, we're going to give this an hour, as well as a little splash of water, let's not forget that. But an hour on the stove on low with occasional stirring, and you will have a wonderful curry. Whichever way you choose to go, or if you choose to go in a completely different direction, just serve this up with some nice fresh rice, some naan if you got it, and you are good to go.
Now that all of our patience has been paid off, we're going to go ahead and see how this tastes. Today, my lovely taste subjects are my friends Sean and Marcella. Sean's having the vegetarian, Marcella's having the chicken, and I won't make you guys wait any longer. Have at it. See the diagonal.
Don't need to introduce anything. You're like,
Really good. Very flavorful.
Glad you like it.
Yeah, you were right earlier when you said it had a lot of spices, but not spicy. Because I had my orange juice ready, because I can't take much spicy food, but it doesn't. It's not really spicy at all.
Yeah, it's full of coriander and fennel and cumin, so it has a lot of punch, but not a lot of pain. However, anybody who wants to up their own heat is more than welcome to do so.
You said coriander?
Coriander.
And what other spices are there?
Besides a basic curry powder blend that I got at the Asian market, very convenient, I also like to grind my own coriander, fennel, and cumin with a little bit of red pepper flake. Sometimes I also throw in some turmeric.
I don't know.
There's a tang to it.
I was gonna say I really like cumin seeds, like right before I had eggs on for breakfast. Actually just had a bite of peas too, because I don't like peas at all, except they're in Indian food.
Oh, yay!
And so when I ate these, I was like, oh, they're cooked well enough that I can't even taste that they're like peas, pretty much. So,
All right.
but yeah, no, that's really good.
Is chicken cooked in it? Like there's like shreds of chicken in there? Okay.
Should be bite-sized nuggets.
Oh, bite-sized nuggets. Okay.
Yep.
Well, there it is. Yeah, I made curry before, and it's a different style of curry that I make. I usually make the Korean style, which is kind of spicy, but I would put like like pear or apple in it to make it a little bit more sweeter, so that way it balances out.
I actually used peas in part for sweetness, but also ketchup. So the great things about curry is not only are there so many different kinds, but you can do so many crazy things with it.
Yeah, you can have different ingredients as well, aside from like potato and carrots and peas.
Is this your own recipe, or did you get
Oh
this
no,
from
I got it
somewhere?
from a manga called Addicted to Curry.
Okay.
If I ever find that, I will own it for my own.
Maybe we can find it in Japan.
If you don't mind looking,
We don't know if they'll exist. If it's that old, I don't
well,
really
we'll
know.
talk about that later. Meanwhile, you guys go ahead and eat. Folks, I hope that you're curious enough to give this a shot, and I really hope if you do, you let me know how you like it. So tell me what you change, tell me what you keep. I want to hear it. Anyway, from me to you, get out there and play with your food. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.